Okay, we are going to be looking at how to count atoms in a chemical formula. A chemical formula is really simply just the ratio of atoms in a compound. For instance, H2O is the chemical formula for water. In H2O, it is determined that there are 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen. If they did not form in this exact ratio, it would not be water. It is very important to understand that this small number here, this subscript, represents the number of atoms for that element. Okay, so this is a subscript. Now there's something else you might also see in a chemical formula, which is a number written before the entire compound. This number, let's just say it shows up here. This number is what we call a coefficient. A coefficient tells me how many molecules of water I have. So here, with this being a 2, it refers to the entire compound. So I have 2 water molecules, 2 H2Os hanging out together. If I take this into account and I look at the entirety of both molecules, I would have 4 hydrogens and a total of 2 oxygens. I hope that makes sense. Let's do a little bit of practice together. If there is no coefficient before the entire compound, we assume that there's only one of them. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to look at how many of each element and then the total number of atoms. So in this particular case for sodium, for my NAs, I have 1. My oxygens, I have 1. And my hydrogens, there is only 1. If I have 1 sodium, 1 oxygen, and 1 hydrogen, I have a total of 3 atoms in this one example. 1, 1, and 1. If I'm looking at CO2, so carbon dioxide, right, this is what we breathe out, I have 1 carbon, and I have 2 oxygens, for a total of 3 atoms. Hope this is making good sense for you. Alright, last example. In this particular example, I have a coefficient. That means I'm going to be looking at how many atoms total in 4 molecules of H2SO4. So I can tell that I have, if I was looking just at one molecule, I have hydrogen, I have sulfur, and I have oxygen. if I was looking at just this one molecule, I would have 2 hydrogens, 1 sulfur, and 4 oxygens. That's just in one molecule. But if I have 4 molecules of H2SO4, I would have 4 times the amount of each of these. So I would simply multiply each of these by 4 because there's 4 total molecules of my sulfuric acid here. So that would be 8 total hydrogens, 4 total sulfurs, and 16 total oxygens. If I were to add these together now, I have a total of 28 atoms. Okay, so now sometimes you can see compounds that have part of their atoms within parentheses. For instance, magnesium hydroxide is Mg, and you notice that there's no subscript right here, which means I only have one Mg. And then you have a couple other elements here, oxygen and hydrogen, inside parentheses. And outside of that is our subscript 2. This subscript will distribute to each of the elements inside the parentheses only. So I would have 1 magnesium, but in this case I would have 2 oxygen and 2 hydrogen. This subscript right here only goes with what is inside each of these parentheses. It's just like distributing in math, only what is inside the parentheses. So 1 molecule of this entire compound has 1, 3, 5 atoms. If I were to have, say, 3 coefficient, right, 3 molecules of MgOH2, I would have 3 magnesiums. In terms of oxygen, since I would have 2 in just 1 molecule, but I have 3 molecules, I would have 2 times 3 for 6 oxygens. And the same would go for our hydrogens. In 1 molecule, I would have 2, but 3 molecules is 3 times that for 6. Excellent. I hope you will join me in a little bit of practice and pause your video to see if you can calculate how many of each atom and then the total number of atoms for the next couple examples. Okay, here we have 3 examples. They increase in complexity, sort of. For this first one, we have Ba for barium, and we have Cl for chlorine. Remember that there are 3 molecules of BaCl2. How many bariums do you have? How many chlorines do you have? If you wrote 3 bariums and 6 chlorines, you would be correct for a total of 9 atoms. Alright, let's try this next one here. We're looking at potassium chromate. So you have, use my mark here, it means you have K for potassium. You have Cr for chromium, and you have O for oxygen. Can you tell me how many of each atom you have, and then the total number of atoms? If you said 2, 1, and 4, for a total of 7 atoms, you would be correct. Again, pausing and practicing now will help you later on. All right, last but not least, this is the tricky Ricky here. Tricky, tricky, tricky. Okay, I'm going to erase these so that we have plenty of room. You're going to need some room for this one. All right, here we go. Al, that's not an I, it's an L. Al for aluminum. Okay. You have C for carbon. And you have O for oxygen. Pause the video. Tell me how many of each you have, and then the total number of atoms. Can you get this one correct? It's pretty tricky. If I was going to solve this problem, I would first think about how many I have in just one molecule. In one molecule across the board here, I would have 2 aluminums. I have 1 inside parentheses, but this 3 is going to come all the way out and multiply into that. I would have 3 carbons. And then again, if I was thinking about my oxygens, in just one molecule, this 3 is going to come in and multiply through into that. So I would have 9. This isn't just one molecule. I have 4 of those. So I'm then going to multiply each one of these numbers by 4 to figure out how many of each I have in 4 molecules of that compound. So 4 times 2 would be 8, 4 times 3 is 12, and 4 times 9 is 36. 36. Sorry, I'm doing head math. By all means, feel free to grab a calculator and do these so you know them for sure. Now I just add them together, so I would have 8 aluminums plus 12 carbons would be 20, plus 36 oxygen would be 56 atoms total in this many molecules of aluminum carbonate. Hopefully you got that correct. Hopefully you paused the video to try. Okay. This is all I'm going to have you look at today, and I'm going to put a worksheet up with this so that you can do a little bit of practice. Great. If you need help, please chime in. Not tomorrow, because tomorrow is PSAT day, but how about Thursday? Chime in with me on Thursday. Okay, have a great day.